Luke's phone screen lit up in his hand. A message from Mira appeared. I have to work late tonight, a big presentation with the partner team. Don't wait for dinner, go to bed early, okay? Red heart. He sat silently in the car, the wind blending with the radio music, but it wasn't enough to drown out the restlessness inside him. He wanted to believe Mira. She had been his girlfriend for 3 years, smart, decisive, and always ambitious at work. But something felt off. The message was too perfect, too polite. Not like his Mira, who usually typed hurriedly, without proper accents, sometimes just a short, working late, don't wait. Luke was about to reply, good luck. Tell me about the presentation tomorrow, red heart, but his finger froze above the screen. Don't send it, a familiar voice spoke from the passenger seat. It was Ryan, his cousin, the one who always kept Luke grounded when his heart blinded him. What do you mean? Luke whispered. Ryan shrugged, but his eyes were sharp. Mira isn't giving a presentation. She didn't tell you the important thing. Today is Thursday. Luke frowned. So, last week, I happened to see Myra's schedule pop up on her laptop at your place. Her team's presentations are on Tuesdays, not Thursdays. A silence stretched. Ryan exhaled. Don't you find it strange? Lately, she's been coming home late, putting her phone face down, locking it with fingerprint, even avoiding talking about your future together. Luke gripped his phone tightly. The screen went dark. He didn't want to doubt her. But his gut, and now these little details, were piecing together. He wasn't ready to believe Mira was betraying him, but he wasn't naive enough to ignore it either. What now? Ryan asked. Luke looked up at the night sky. If she's lying, tonight I'll find out. Luke stood silently behind the frosted glass of Betrayal Bistro. The warm yellow light spilling from the chandeliers above bathed the space inside in a different world, cozy, private, and deceptive. At the third table from the left, Mira sat, her shoulders leaning slightly toward Jason, her direct boss. She was smiling, not the tired smile after a long presentation, but a soft, carefree smile, as if she had forgotten someone was waiting for her at home. Jason said something. Mira leaned in, placing her hand gently on the back of his hand, almost out of habit. Touching his hand. Not pulling away. Not embarrassed. Luke didn't storm in. Didn't slam the table. Didn't make a scene. He quietly took out his phone, raised it, and snapped 2 pictures. Clear shots of their faces and the way they didn't keep any distance. He left immediately afterward. No waiting for the main course. No waiting for an explanation. Outside, the night wind was colder than usual. Inside his car, his phone screen lit up with a message from Mira. Just finished work. So tired. Going to shower and sleep right away, babe. Accompanied by a sleepy emoji, as if she had spent the entire evening struggling with charts and presentation slides. Luke stared at the message for a long time. It wasn't anger he felt, but a cold sting creeping down his spine. Lies don't always come through words. Sometimes they come from pretending to be familiar. He didn't reply. Didn't ask. Didn't confront. His phone lay face down on the passenger seat. He glanced through the rearview mirror as the restaurant lights grew smaller and then disappeared. Maybe from now on, he didn't need to hear any more explanations. Because sometimes, the silence of a betrayer speaks louder than 1,000 lies. The sound of keys turning in the lock as Mira stepped inside. The soft light from the living room cast a weary look on her face. One Luke was no longer sure was genuine or just an act. Aren't you asleep yet? She asked, setting her bag down and slowly taking off her shoes. Waiting for you to come home, Luke replied, his voice calm and steady. Mira sighed and sank onto the sofa. Just finished presenting the project. I feel like I'm about to pass out. Jason kept making me redo everything. It's driving me crazy. She glanced at him, half seeking sympathy, half making sure he wasn't suspicious. Luke nodded, trying to keep his eyes from going cold. Yeah. I know you're trying your best. Mira gave a tired smile, then stood up. I'm going to take a shower, I'm exhausted. The bathroom door closed behind her. Luke sat quietly. In his mind, the image of their hands touching under the dim restaurant lights last night was vivid. And now, She was still lying, without a hint of hesitation. He didn't expose her, didn't interrogate, just silence and memory. The next morning, Mira acted like everything was normal. "There's an internal meeting today, I'll probably be late," she said while pouring coffee, her hair still damp. Luke nodded, silent. He kissed her forehead lightly as usual. But after Mira left, he didn't go to work. He waited. And just as he suspected, nearly an hour later, he saw the door open again. Mira returned, sneaking in like someone hiding. She hadn't gone to work. She lied. Luke stood behind the window curtain, fists clenched. Every detail, every word painted a clear picture. Mira wasn't just cheating, she had staged a whole play. But this game, he would be the one to write the final chapter. Luke placed his phone down on the table as if he'd just touched a shard of broken glass. The notes on Myra's phone still glowed on the screen. Cufflinks, hotel, red dress, each line like a sharp blade cutting into his heart. No more doubt. Mira and Jason had a carefully planned, quiet but deliberate affair. A knock echoed on the door. It was Ryan, Luke's best friend and the only person who knew Luke was quietly investigating. "Any news?" Ryan asked, stepping in with a cautious look. Luke pointed to the phone. Ryan picked it up, quickly scrolling through the notes before muttering a curse. This isn't just cheating. This is an entire betrayal script." Luke sat down, fingers intertwined, eyes deep in thought. "I know. So what now? Confront her? She can't just keep pretending nothing's wrong." He was silent for a few seconds, then shook his head. "Not yet. I'm not ready to end it." Ryan frowned. "But you have enough proof already. Call Mira out, show her all this, and end this farce." Luke looked at his friend, his gaze no longer angry, but cold. "How long do you think she's been lying to me? How many late nights? How many sweet words stained with betrayal? If I just expose her, she'll cry, apologize, and then go on playing the victim. I want her to see everything. The disappointed looks around her, the contempt at work, and the feeling of being stripped bare in front of everyone." Ryan sighed. "So, what do you plan to do?" Luke stood up, took the old phone, and placed it in a small locked box. "Gather more. Watch closely. When the truth comes out, it has to be undeniable, with no way out." Ryan looked at him, silent for a moment. "You've changed." Luke nodded. "No longer blind. Now it's time to play by their rules, but with my own weapons." Luke said nothing, showed no suspicion at all. Every time Mira came home late, he still smiled and asked gently. She kept acting, and he was just a silent audience memorizing every distorted line. Silence became the perfect mask. The more she trusted she was safe, the more careless she became. And the more time Luke had. He began collecting everything. Messages between Mira and Jason. Conversations automatically backed up on a cloud account she didn't know was still syncing. Ryan, his IT friend, helped extract them from an old backup. "Are you sure about this?" Ryan asked, sending him the first file. Luke nodded, eyes fixed on the screen. More sure than ever. Photos from the Burrito Bistro Cafe's security cameras were obtained by Ryan through a contact. Mira and Jason's hands touching, smiles full of hidden meaning. Under the candlelight, the betrayal was clearer than any words. Luke also saved Jason's work schedule from LinkedIn and internal company posts. The days Mira was working late perfectly matched Jason's events, from seminars to secret business trips. Myra's call logs were recovered too. Jason's calls after hours, Mira sneaking to the balcony to take calls when she thought Luke was asleep. Piece by piece, quietly, steadily, but unmistakably. He opened a special folder on his hard drive named Truth. Inside, everything was categorized. Photos, notes, videos extracted from cloud cameras, even recordings of some calls captured by a hidden app on the old phone. Every time Mira passed by him with those fake innocent eyes, Luke just smiled. Because he knew the end was near. And this time, silence was not a sign of weakness, but a signal of a storm about to break. A storm planned down to the last second. Mira still played the perfect lover's role flawlessly. Every morning she kissed his cheek, said the usual lines, "Make sure to eat lunch on time today. I'll be back early, work's light today." Her eyes sparkled, her smile was gentle, all perfect, like a commercial about love. But to Luke, now, those were just hollow lines memorized to hide the truth. Because he knew everything. Knew she hadn't worked late last night as she said, but went with Jason to a small concert, then back to the hotel where they had booked a room. Knew the red dress she said was for a client party had actually appeared in a photo he took from afar, where Jason's hand rested intimately on her back. Mira didn't know Luke had gathered all the pieces. Messages, photos, travel maps, call logs, copies of her personal notes saved on the old phone. Every time she smiled at him, Luke only saw the craftiness of someone skilled at sugarcoating poison. But he didn't act right away. No anger. No confrontation. No throwing the truth in her face like a slap. Luke understood that some betrayals cannot be forgiven, nor simply exposed in the usual way. There had to be an ending. A final bell that could not be denied. A truth, not for debate, but for closure. So he waited. Not out of hesitation, but because he needed it precise. Not just a breaking, but a stripping bare. Not to seek revenge, but to end forever the play called True Love that Mira still tried to perform. And when that moment came, Mira would face not only the truth, but herself. Luke began to feel doubt, not just about Myra's suspicious behavior, but in the small ways she had changed, how she looked at him, touched him, or even how she stayed silent. The woman who once called him, "the only one I trust," now often avoided his eyes when talking about work, or used excuses to go to bed early instead of lying beside him like she used to. But Luke said nothing. No reaction. He played the naive one so convincingly that sometimes even he felt like a fraud. Gentle questions. Patient smiles. Nods full of trust when she talked about tight deadlines or an unexpectedly long meeting with Jason. He didn't believe her, but he pretended to, because truth needs time to emerge in the right way. Then, an unexpected opportunity appeared. Mira texted saying she had to work late. Luke took that moment to reach out to Mr. Grab, her father, someone he had never really been close with. They arranged to meet at a cafe near the commercial district, a place Mr. Grab usually stopped by after golf. Luke dressed neatly, keeping himself as composed and polite as possible. He wasn't going to confront anything, just to feel things out. "Luke," Mr. Grab shook his hand with just enough force, his eyes neither warm nor cold. "Thank you for taking the time," Luke said, trying to keep a smile. "Do you have something to ask?" He got straight to the point, his gaze sharp and bright, like a freshly honed blade. Luke took a sip of his coffee. "I just wanted to understand Mira a little better. She seems under a lot of pressure lately, and I'm not sure I'm helping." Mr. Grab tilted his head slightly. "Mira has a clear direction. She doesn't need help. Just people who don't slow her down." The words pierced Luke like a hidden needle wrapped in velvet. "I've always tried not to be a burden." Mr. Grab nodded, though his expression didn't change. "You're a good man. But good isn't enough. Mira needs someone who can go far. Someone who can stand as her equal, not someone she has to wait for." Silence settled over the small cafe table for a few seconds. Luke looked at him, not as a future father-in-law, but as a gatekeeper deciding who could step into his daughter's world. And in that moment, Luke understood something bitter. Mira wasn't just deceiving him. She, and her family, had quietly cut him out of the future they were building. A future with no room for Luke. No space for someone good, but not exceptional. No space for those who didn't fit perfectly tailored shirts, financial galas, and people like Jason, tidy, ambitious, and meticulously strategic. He suddenly recalled their engagement night. Myra's mother's forced smile. The mechanical well wishes. And Jason's gaze, as if he already knew something Luke didn't. On the way home, Luke didn't feel angry anymore. Just hollow. He used to think he was fighting to keep Mira. But now he realized, there was never a battle. Only a grand stage, where he was the last audience member not yet told the lead role had been recast. And they thought he didn't know. Luke gripped the steering wheel tightly. If they were putting on a show, he would be the director of the final act. The finale, with a truth no one could deny. And this time, no supporting role would be spared.